Right, we need to hear from Wayne Swan now, because he has a complaint about how the growth figures were dealt with in the past and again today, and that programs like this are probably not spending enough time on the economy. Here he is.
When the national accounts came out in March, and of course there was a detraction due to the floods, that was the first item on the news back in March. And in fact, one commentator went out and said this meant Australia was going into recession. Last night, when it came to the electronic coverage, there was barely coverage of it on the commercial stations.
So they've announced today they're having a jobs conference to follow the tax summit in Canberra to try and get back onto the front foot. But those figures this week, Laura, first of all on the growth figures and then the unemployment figures. The growth figures told us, I think, that they might meet their surplus after all, and then the jobs figures came out and the analysis was they might not after all.
Well, I think the growth figures are actually pretty good, I mean the bottom line story is we're still tracking a bit behind the budget forecasts, but that was because it's taken longer to get water out of the coal mines or wherever it is to get exports going again. So the growth figures are showing that that's now bouncing back, and it's bouncing back with alacrity, you'd have to say. And it's not just the resources sector that's growing. There are other signs of reasonable growth. Households are consuming more despite all the retail gloom. So all of that's good. They are more on track to get back to the surplus figure. The jobs numbers, maybe maybe not. I mean, I don't think you can take, at risk of sounding like a politician...
You wouldn't want this to be the start of a trend,
You wouldn't want it to be the start of the trend, but they're not catastrophic.
Well, and I think you've got to remember that the unemployment is what they call a lagging indicator, so it comes at the back end. So it's not at the front end of trend and movement, it's at the back end. So they would be hoping it won't dip again before it comes up, but they would suggest that the growth figures are more
to come.
Yeah, they would suggest the growth figures are more indicative of where the economy is heading right now.
OK, more with our panel shortly. Karen Middleton, Nikki Saver and Laura Tingle, but now here's Mike Bowers and Talking Pictures.